Most people think that the fix for American soccer is obvious. Cut the club fees and offer more scholarship. Done. Youth soccer in America has a serious pay-to-play problem, and this summer's World Cup exposed it for the world to see. The second the US men's national team played somebody half decent, they got absolutely dismantled. Now that's not me throwing shade on everybody they played in the group stage. That loss is just a realization of just how far the US men's national team actually is from the top of this sport. Now that is good news and bad news. The bad news is obvious. The US men's national team is absolutely no way near where it needs to be. The good news is that in this country, it has more resources, more kids, and more opportunities than pretty much any other country on the planet. So the question on everybody's lips right now is what is actually coming next? That is what this video is about. I am going to walk you through the 4 things US soccer is actually doing right now to build the next generation of American players. But before we get into what is happening, first we need to understand why it is happening and what the actual problem inside American youth soccer is. Because most people think it is simply just the fact that you have to pay for your kid to play competitive soccer. And yet that is a problem, but it isn't the core issue. The core issue is that pay to play closes the door on talented American kids who could genuinely be the future of the US men's national team, and they never even get the chance to find that out, simply because their family couldn't afford to get them into the ecosystem in the first place. So what has actually been holding talent back this whole time? Think of it like a dam. The water behind it is full of talented American players. There is a barrier sitting in front of them, and that barrier is literally stopping them from playing alongside other talented players and getting seen by the people who matter. All this country needs is for somebody or something to lift that barrier. And once that happens, the floodgates are well and truly open for the United States to become a powerhouse in this sport the exact way they already are in virtually everything else. For 20 plus years, this has been a known problem inside American soccer. It has been quietly discussed at conferences in coaching circles, but never discussed publicly to the point that it pushes for change. Now you'd think the loss that just happened this summer would get absorbed just like every other US men's national team's loss over the last 2 decades. A few angry tweets, a few people talking in a bar, and then everybody moves on to the next club season like nothing ever happened. But that is not what happened this time. This loss happened on home soil, on the biggest stage this sport has ever had in this country, watched by more Americans than any other soccer tournament in our history. You can't quietly dismiss an early exit in our own stadium in front of our own fans, not with the entire world watching. That is why there needs to be a response. Because within weeks of the World Cup wrapping up, people at the very top of US soccer started to talk. And exactly what is being said right now is pretty much what this video is about. So without further ado, let's get into the first thing. Real funded fixes already happening at the state and local level inside American youth clubs right now. Tom Condone, CEO of US Youth Soccer, has said this directly. Pay to play is a complex issue with no single fix, and it's one everyone across the American game has a role in solving, with the focus now on creating more accessible, affording pathway for players. And let me tell you, this is not just talk. New Jersey Youth Soccer has kept its registration fees completely flat for 10 years straight, largely by growing corporate partnerships instead of passing costs on to families. ASO is leaning into a completely different philosophy across its programs nationwide, with National Director Jenny Luke putting it simply, the promise is that everyone plays, throwing out the barriers and the complicated registrations in favor of local accessible soccer. And organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs of America are actively expanding free, community-based soccer programs across American cities, specifically because rising costs have been locking real domestic talent out. This is the layer of change closest to your family right now. Not a headline, a real tangible shift in American club soccer. But lowering the cost to actually get in the door solves nothing if the person standing behind the door isn't equipped to actually develop your kid. Which brings me on to the next thing. The second thing is American coaching itself is finally getting real dedicated attention. Former US under-20 national team head coach Tab Ramos has been direct about this. American coaches are as educated as anywhere in the world, but he specifically pointed to rigid tactical mandates handed down from the top of youth national team systems as a real limitation. The "you have to play out of the back no matter what" or "you have to play 4-3-3 no matter what" puts incredible limitations on coaching creativity, and it leaves little to no room for the coaches to actually develop the players in front of them. You can open every single door in the country for free, but if the coach is standing on the other side of the door and producing systems instead of players, then what are we even talking about? Fixing access and coaching gives you a better talent development pipeline, but it doesn't answer a bigger question. Where does the money and the expertise to actually fund all of this at scale come from? And that is where it stops being a purely American conversation. The third thing, American soccer finally has a real dedicated global backing behind it. FIFA's chief of global football development, Arsene Wenger, has directly been involved in discussions specifically about the US, working alongside US soccer's own leadership on this exact plan. He's pointed to what real target investment can do in a short window, even starting from almost nothing. 3 years after FIFA helped open a single technical training center in Tanzania, that country reached the final of the African Under-17 Championship with 4 of their players named to the team of the tournament. A country that before that single training center had virtually no path to that stage at all. Now picture that same model, but for one of the wealthiest countries in the world, with more kids actually wanting to play the sport. If a single facility could do that for Tanzania in 3 years, you can only begin to imagine what could happen for the United States. This is exactly why this conversation can't just stay at the grassroots level and has to make it as a global conversation. This needs someone with authority and someone with the technical know-how to actually deliver on all of these promises and steer the US into the right direction. The fourth thing, a real named 5-year plan from the people actually running American soccer. This is something that I would love to see. In pretty much every other area, US youth soccer is like alphabet soup. Nobody's on the same page, and there is zero transparency from the top to the bottom. You've got people having conversations, scrambling to figure these things out for themselves. CEO JT Batson and COO Dan Heffrich has been in direct contact about this since the tournament ended. Batson said it himself, the 2026 has changed the trajectory of this sport in this country forever. And the federation now sees itself 1 month into the 5-year run, building towards the 2028 Olympics and the 2031 Women's World Cup. And they have one explicit goal: for the US to become one of the greatest countries in the world for soccer. Now, don't just take it from me. Here are his exact words. We want to be Argentina. We want to be Spain, competing in a final. Heffrich has said the plan specifically has to improve access and affordability, better align America's fragmented youth system, and raise the standard of coaching across every level of the domestic game. All 3 at once, not one at the expense of the others. And that's honestly the piece that ties all of this together. Cheaper access without better coaching just produces more players who plateau. Better coaching without global scale investment caps out at what individual clubs can afford. And global backing without a single coordinated federation plan just becomes scattered money with no direction. Batson and Heffrich are 2 people in this entire country with the authority to make sure that these 3 pieces move together instead of independently. And for the first time in 20 years, they are actually saying these things out loud, publicly, for you and I to hear. Now, whether they follow through on these plans or not, your guess is as good as mine. But that is what is going on behind the scenes at the top of youth soccer in this country. In my humble opinion, I think US youth soccer in America has an extremely bright future. I would be very surprised that within 10 years, the US couldn't be a force in nature for this sport, just like they are with pretty much every sport that exists. Now, I want to hear what you guys think in the comments section below. Are you as optimistic as me, or do you think this is just all noise? Let me know down below. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one.